Okay, imagine you're grabbing a coffee, and I'm about to tell you everything cool I just learned from reading the transcript of this press conference with PSG coach Luis Enrique and their captain, Marquinhos.
Hmm.
These guys are literally days away from not one, but two massive finals. You can practically feel the tension and the focus just coming through their words.
Absolutely. It's like getting a backstage pass right before the biggest show, isn't it? You hear the public stuff, sure, but you also get these little glimpses of the internal dynamics, the real priorities,
Yeah.
the things that really matter when everything's on the line.
And that's exactly our mission with this deep dive. We're pulling directly from that conversation with Luis Enrique and Marquinhos to figure out what's really going on inside the club right now. Like, what's their mindset? What are the tactical little nuggets? How are they handling this just insane pressure cooker of having two historic finals back to back?
Right. We'll take you through the key points they made, almost as if you were right there in the press room yourself, hearing their kind of unfiltered thoughts. We really want to highlight the specific details, the quotes, that give us the best insight into how an elite team prepares for moments like these.
So let's kick things off with the captain, Marquinhos. This guy has been at PSG, well, forever, it feels like. Seen it all. How's he feeling about his own game and the team's season?
Yeah, he was pretty reflective, actually. He didn't say it was the best season ever, but he was clear it's one of the best seasons for him personally and, for the team collectively.
Okay.
He mentioned balancing the tough times they've had, those difficult moments like losing titles in the past with the highs, specifically pointing to reaching the Champions League final as a good moment. He seems, genuinely pretty happy with his current form and how the team's come along.
That makes sense. I mean, when you've been somewhere that long, you see the cycles, right? But speaking of being there a long time, the inevitable question always comes up for established players. What about the future? How did he handle that one?
Yeah, he basically said he's totally used to that question by now,
Yeah.
which I guess isn't surprising for a captain who's been there almost a decade.
Right.
He emphasized what's important to him, his own feeling, and crucially, what the coach and the club leadership feel. And here's a mindset thing that, comes with experience. He approaches every game playing the next match as if it's the last.
Oh, that's interesting. Not in a dramatic this is it way, but more in a be fully present kind of way.
Exactly that. He said he's developed that over the years because, as he put it, football goes very, very fast.
Doesn't it just?
He mentioned how he's seen players who left the club suddenly, like unexpectedly, compared to others who knew it was coming. It shows he gets the unpredictable side of the sport, even at the very top.
Right, even for someone who seems so much a part of the club's fabric.
And on that exact point, he said based on the info he has and his feeling from the management and the coach, they are happy with my work for now.
Ah, for now, the key phrase.
Exactly. But he followed that straight up by saying, very realistically, you never know the future. He reaffirmed his really deep love and admiration for the club, promised he'll always give his absolute maximum, while also acknowledging that, yeah, eventually his time there will end, but it'll be with that admiration intact.
So a mix of total commitment to the present and a really mature understanding of the business side of football.
Pretty much.
But let's talk about the very present.
He stressed their focus is very focused on this match tomorrow, like laser beam.
Okay, so the message is loud and clear internally. And how are they framing the Coupe de France final itself? Is it just a hurdle to get over, or is it something more important?
He framed it as the absolute best possible preparation. The coach's message is apparently to prepare tranquilly. And Marquinhos genuinely seems to believe that the best way to get ready for the Champions League final next week is to win tomorrow. Winning the Coupe de France final, he said, is the best preparation possible. It puts them in the rhythm of a final, lets them feel that unique atmosphere at the Stade de France again.
So it's not just another game. It's a vital stepping stone, a chance to taste that high-stakes environment and, crucially, build momentum by winning. That makes a lot of practical sense.
Exactly.
What about their opponent tomorrow, Reams? They finished lower in the league table. Is there any risk, any danger at all of them taking this one lightly?
Marquinhos pushed back hard on that idea, really hard. He stated very clearly that every match has its history. Doesn't matter about league position or, how much money a club has. He even recalled their semifinal match in this cup wasn't easy at all. He really hammered home that their own performance, their intensity, concentration, and attitude are the real keys to winning. He reminded everyone that, look, everything can happen in a final.
True enough.
And he specifically pointed out this is key, that they actually drew against Reims twice in the league this season.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is a stark reminder they can't just waltz in expecting a win. He wrapped it up saying they must prepare well and do an excellent match. Because a final is simple. You have to win.
That double draw fact is great context and really grounds what he's saying about not underestimating them. Okay, last thing from Marquinhos' side. What did he say about the coach, Luis Enrique? What's his impact been like?
He gave the coach huge credit, called him one of the principal strengths of the team. He described how Luis Enrique has really added his DNA to the squad and improved them bit by bit. Across the board, mentioned defense, attack, giving them tactical alternatives so they're ready for all the things that can happen in a match.
Right, the adaptability.
Exactly. But it wasn't just tactics. Marquinhos highlighted the coach's work on motivation, preparation, and attitude, both in games and, importantly, in training. He said the coach showed the path, was exigent, which means really demanding mentally and physically. In his words, the coach's impact is much bigger than just talking about football.
Wow, that's really high praise. It sounds like he's built something deeper than just a tactical system, like a whole culture of demanding excellence.
Absolutely. He's clearly gotten into the players' heads, yet in a good way.
Okay, shifting gears now to the coach himself, Luis Enrique. He started off by sharing his thoughts on the news that sporting director Luis Campos got his contract extended.
Yeah, he seemed genuinely thrilled about that. Called it the best possible news. He praised Campos really highly, said he's one of the best sporting directors, maybe even the best.
High praise indeed.
Yeah. He talked about having a great connection with Campos and how happy he is they'll keep working together with the same idea. Sounds like he feels really supported by the management.
That relationship between coach and sporting director is so crucial, isn't it? It sort of sets the tone for everything else.
Totally.
Okay, the big picture goal everyone talks about for PSG is the treble winning the league, the domestic cup, and the Champions League. How did Luis Enrique address that massive potential?
He immediately went to that classic saying, don't sell the bear's skin before killing it.
Right. Very pragmatic.
Very. He stated that from day one, the objective was always to be in a position to access all these titles. He acknowledged they are right there now, but he called it the most difficult moment. That moment you have to actually put the cherry on the cake.
The final step.
Exactly. He emphasized that the team's mindset and motivation haven't really changed. They've been consistent all year aiming for this.
So they knew this potential existed, worked towards it, but they understand the final hurdle is always the hardest. And on that note, kind of reinforcing what Marquinhos said, how does he see managing the team's focus with two finals so close together?
He feels it's actually very easy for professionals. He believes they just understand that a cup final is very special. Totally different from a league match. He mentioned the 50-50 crowd, the fact that tiny details matter more. And he reiterated, just like Marquinhos, that the laser focus is only on tomorrow because it's the only match we are able to control. He said while maybe some general tactical ideas apply to both games, he was absolutely adamant. No player is thinking about the other match right now.
That's a strong statement. He sounds very confident in their ability to just compartmentalize.
Extremely confident.
What about his own feelings about coaching in this final at the Stade de France? Does he have any personal history there?
He had a memorable answer for that one. He actually brought up a very bad memory from his playing days, losing 1-0 there against France when Zidane scored.
Ouch. Yeah, I remember that.
But he called it very beautiful to be returning now as a coach, reflecting on how you never know where life takes you. But despite the sentiment, he brought it right back to the task at hand, stressing the need to remain cautious and calm, sticking to the process that got them there and not trying to do different or very special things just because it's a final.
Stick to what works. Yeah, that tracks with Marquinhos' point about their own preparation being key.
Exactly.
How is the team looking physically at this stage of the season? Do they feel fresh or are they running on fumes?
He believes they are physically at the same level as they were last season, which is pretty impressive given how long and demanding a season is.
It really is.
He clarified that the impression people might have of them being fresher this year actually comes from the results achieved throughout the season and how they've improved in certain aspects of the game and their overall effectiveness.
Okay, so success breeds perceived freshness.
Kind of. And crucially, He attributed this feeling of freshness at the end of the season largely to his turnover policy, rotating players throughout the year, which he sees as having many positive things.
Smart management.
And he gave good news on the injury front, too. Everyone is available, with the only exception being Presnel Kimpembe, who he said is almost recovered.
That's huge news going into 2 finals. That turnover policy paying off then.
Yeah, that seems to be the message. It wasn't just about managing the squad day to day. It was strategic conditioning aimed at peaking right now at the end.
He was asked about their situation, having won the league early compared to, say, Inter, their potential Champions League final opponent, who had a really tight title race in Italy. Is one situation better than the other?
He sort of admitted their calendar situation can condition things, but he wasn't really sure if it's definitely positive or negative. He noted that having the league wrapped up meant their recent weeks were spent managing game time and management rather than needing results week in, week out.
Right. Different kind of pressure, or lack thereof.
Exactly. He said that's a very different concept from playing high-stakes, must-win league games.
Yeah.
He basically said they're just trying to focus on the positive side of their specific situation.
It's a fascinating debate, isn't it? The pressure of a tight race versus the control of being able to manage minutes. He seems to be spinning it positively for his guys.
Seems like it.
What about the younger players on the squad? Is he worried they might be getting a bit starry-eyed, maybe distracted by the big one next week?
He was pretty direct here. Said he hasn't had any particular discussions with the young guys about focusing only on tomorrow over the Champions League final. Why? Because he has no doubt that right now the only important final is tomorrow.
Right.
He even called it naive to think any player is currently thinking about the CL final.
Yeah.
And then he issued this really stark warning that just underlines his whole point. If someone is a little unfocused, I would correct them immediately because I would not play them.
Wow. Okay. Zero tolerance for looking past the immediate task. That really puts into perspective just how high the bar is for focus right now.
Absolutely. Crystal clear message there.
Marquinhos mentioned training has been particularly intense this week. Did Luis Enrique explain why that is?
Yes, he confirmed the high intensity. He said now that they only have 1 match per week, their trainings must have a stronger physical load. Simple as that. They've used this week to improve physical aspects, offensive stuff, defensive stuff. He described making training as similar as possible to a match, meaning really high intensity on both sides, attacking and defending within the drills.
So they're using the reduced game schedule to actually build fitness and sharpen everything, not just rest up.
Seems so. Keep the intensity high.
He also talked a bit about how the team's tactical approach has evolved this season, didn't he?
Yeah, he discussed finding a new balance, particularly in offensive transitions. How fast they go from defending to attacking, especially when opponents sit deep in a low block, defending close to their own goal. The classic problem. Right. And that tactical challenge is relevant for both Reims, who can defend compactly, and probably for Inter if they end up playing them. He highlighted the need for a strong structure when they attack so they don't get caught out by dangerous counterattacks. He noted Reims is actually pretty good at those transitions.
Okay.
He called finding that balance between players being mobile and creative while also maintaining a fixed, solid structure. He called it complex. But he praised his players, calling them very intelligent, capable of handling position changes while still keeping that essential structure. He stressed these are very important aspects they work on constantly because it's just difficult to do on the field in the heat of the moment.
That gives us a real insight into the kind of tactical problems they've been trying to solve all season, how to break down stubborn defenses without leaving the back door open. It's a classic football challenge.
It really is.
Finally, he singled out a specific player for praise, didn't he? The Ecuadorian defender, William Pacho.
He did. He knew about Pacho's background and his importance to the team. He noted that Pacho actually has the most game time of anyone this season.
Wow, for a new player.
Exactly, which is pretty remarkable. He praised his, quote, perfect adaptation and his contributions, specifically mentioning his salida de balón. That's the ability to play the ball out cleanly from the back under pressure, starting attacks from deep.
Super valuable skill.
Hugely valuable. He also highlighted his strong defensive skills, his ability to win one-on-ones without fouling or getting cards. He called that specific ability world-class level and sees Pacho as one of the young players with very high hopes. He finished by saying finding a new player who adapts so well and performs at such a consistently high level, it's just remarkable.
High praise indeed. Sounds like Pacho has been a major success story for them this season, maybe flown under the radar a bit.
Absolutely. And it shows the coach really values those players who can execute difficult technical tasks cleanly and reliably, especially under pressure.
So wrapping this all up then, what are the really big takeaways from hearing directly from the coach and captain just before this crucial period?
I think the absolute clearest message, the one hammered home by both of them, is the intense, immediate focus only on the Coupe de France final tomorrow.
Right, tunnel vision.
Total tunnel vision.
Yeah.
They see winning that game not just as a trophy in itself, which it is, but is the absolute best preparation for the Champions League final that follows. We get Marquinhos giving us that look into the captain's mindset, handling his future, valuing the coach's impact, that long-term perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And then Luis Enrique provided the coach's view, the value he places on that sporting director partnership, the strategic playing for the treble potential, but crucially not getting ahead of themselves, the physical readiness thanks to that rotation policy, and maybe above all, that unwavering demand for total focus on the task right in front of them.
It really underscores the level of discipline required at the absolute top, doesn't it? Especially when you're juggling objectives this big. That ability to compartmentalize, trust the process, demand that immediate focus, it's clearly paramount for them right now.
Right. And thinking about that intense demand from Luis Enrique, he basically said, if you're caught thinking about the second final, you won't even play in the first one. That kind of raises a fascinating question for you, the listener, to maybe mull over. How does that kind of extreme pressure to stay only in the present moment, focusing solely on the immediate task, truly impact a team's performance in a final? And realistically, I mean, with something as absolutely massive as a Champions League final looming just days away, is it truly possible for these players to completely block it out and focus only on the game tomorrow? It's the ultimate test of their mental game, really.